resort in Jamaica, far from the distractions of home. God, it does look good. It was there that Jan was given permission, among other things, to masturbate. That touching herself sexually was a turn-on for her husband. As for George, he too realized how inhibited he was about masturbating, and by the way, about sex in general. Overall, they came out of that week far more sexually confident and comfortable with each other. But the question tonight, has it lasted? We will find out. Incidentally, if Jan and George look familiar, maybe it's because they were with us shortly after their week in Jamaica, again, about a year ago. Also joining us is the woman who leads those weeks in the tropics. She is sex therapist, Dr. Dagmar O'Connor. She's been associated with both the St. Luke's Roosevelt Hospital and the New York Medical College, and she's also the author of How to Make Love to the Same Person for the Rest of Your Life and Still Love It, and she's also produced a videotape of the same title. And our question for you tonight is, if you've ever gone through sex therapy, read a book on sex or relationships, or you've come up with your own sexual treatment, how has it affected your relationship? What were the long-term effects? We're interested in your experiences, your advice, your counsel. Do give us a call on our toll-free line. It is 800-487-CNBC. Folks, welcome back to Real Person. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
How are things going a year later?
Wonderful.
Very good.
In general, a more intense, loving sexual relationship?
And closer.
Okay.
More communication.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That is the idea.
Very loving.
As we hear almost every night on this show. One of the issues, as I understand it, when you were in Jamaica and leading up to that point in your marriage, is that you felt, what, sexually and emotionally rejected by George?
I felt unattractive. Probably all my life, so it really, I just carried that into the relationship, and I felt unattractive.
We have a soundbite from your week in Jamaica that really illustrates the point. If we can roll that now, folks.
One time when I felt rejected, I accused George of, I asked him, in an accusing kind of way, I asked him, who are you saving it for? And I felt that he was withholding, and that I felt it in that area, that he doesn't withhold in any other area but that.
What is that he's withholding from you?
I guess I expected, when I got married and when I met George, I expected to be fondled all the time. I expected him to be all over me, and he wasn't. And I took that as rejection. And I would compare myself to other people, too. And it could be a fictitious person. It didn't have to be anybody.
Did you feel yourself holding back sexually when it came to your wife?
No, not really. But I did feel that that there wasn't a clear communication as to the way I was reacting to her. I know she was reacting to me based on a history, as opposed to based on the action that was happening right now.
In other words, you weren't communicating how lustful you did feel about her.
I don't know if I could say that. Maybe you're right as far as that's concerned.
Yeah.
But also, at this time, I was very inhibited also. Prior to going to the workshop, I was very shut down in a lot of areas.
When you say you're sexually inhibited, what does that mean to you, George?
It means that, first of all, I didn't discover masturbation, let's say, until much later in life, what we're talking about. I felt that I had to react a certain way. I felt that I had to be in control of a sexual act.
When you say you had to be in control of the sexual act, what is that?
I had to arouse Jen, I had to arouse myself. I had to make sure she had an orgasm. I had to, everything was had to be, all the I's had to be dotted and all the T's had to be crossed.
Right.
And right. So it wasn't a free sexual
How could
feeling.
you possibly enjoy sex if you're putting that much pressure on yourself?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Exactly.
Yeah. Did you feel that pressure?
Yes. And I haven't this last year. I haven't since that workshop.
George,
that's one of the things that has changed.
George mentioned masturbation, and I did in the introduction. Why was it important for you to be able to masturbate? And you do that in front of each other now, is that right?
Yeah, I think it's expanded our whole love life. Our sexuality is not just about intercourse anymore. And that's very liberating for me. Very liberating. I think it's liberating for George, too. But
It is, absolutely. Because it takes a lot of pressure it takes a lot of pressure off of the relationship.
In fact, Dr. O'Connor, you save intercourse as almost the icing on the cake. You can go the whole week at your seminar, your workshop in Jamaica, and you don't do any intercourse until the last day?
Towards the very, very end. Because...
and it's only for a minute.
Well, no, it's only for a minute when you start.
Oh, okay.
I don't leave people a 1 minute intercourse. I don't think that would be fair. But it's so important that you learn the variations and that you get the sexual freedom. And that's what the two of you learned. You learned to say, this is my sexuality, this is mine, and this is yours. It's not that you turn me on, I turn myself on with you. And that's so important, the kind of freedom you get from doing all these things. The only important thing about intercourse, it's important for reproduction. Then it's pleasure, but it's not the most important. It's a smorgasbord where everything is equal. And it's very important. I also wanted to say that your feelings, Jan, that you had in terms of being unattractive is very common for women who've had early childhood abuse. It's this feeling of, I'm not attractive, it wasn't my fault, I didn't do it. And this of reminding yourself inside your head over and over again that I'm not wanted and I'm not terrific, that means it wasn't my fault. The sexual abuse early on wasn't my fault. And I think that's important because so many women feel this. And you need to take your power back from that.
And I need to go to a commercial. We'll be back in just a moment or two. Before we take that break, Dr. Joyce Brothers is next with her answer to the question, is sex better when you totally concentrate on your partner's pleasure?
If you have a total feeling of giving while making love, it may be creating a problem in your sex life. When people deny themselves, it generally indicates an insecurity, a lack of confidence, and a weak ego. Anyone whose primary concern in sex is giving can't help but resent the activity or their partner. I'm Dr. Joyce Brothers for CNBC.